But about the sun, when you see the sun with, well, first of all, that the NASA show us about the solar, this kind of image, it's all CGI. Maybe some people believe that this is something real based on some kind of equipment that isolates some, lights, radiation or thing like that. It's all CGI. In fact, I can make it really quickly. This is not the same exactly way that it's produced, but here I made for just for show you. This is very easy to do. In fact, if I wanted, I can put it in green color and I say, no, this is 2000 kelvins less than the other one, that is why it's looking green, and things like that. That is what NASA makes, really. It's all based on CGI. But when you look at the sun in reality, with an alpha filter, for example, via telescope, you can see this kind of arcs. And these kind of arcs, it's like electric arcs. They don't have any property of flames. All about our sun is electrical, and you can determine this even a very simple way. When you look at a storm at night and a lighting, illuminates all the landscape, you see this kind of illumination which is blue, because when you have a camera outside, for example, any cameraman knows this, you need to calibrate. It's called white balance, because you need to calibrate and compensate this overexposure to the blue color that the sun produces. So for have real color, you need to make this white balance, and that is because the light of the electricity, it's a kind of blue light. So the radiation of the sun, it's electrical. If you put, for example, plants beside a fire, the plant is burning up. It's not going to grow. But if you put a plant beside an electrical lamp, the plant is going to grow. So all the living things in our planet, exist because we feed with that electrical current. It's not based on any fire or things like that. So when you started to study the sun, even NASA say, I have a little video here, official from NASA, and the NASA even mock us because they put like this smile face on the sun. Let me show you because it's very funny. But I want to show you this because the people need to understand. It's in English. I have some subtitles in Spanish, but it's in English, so you can understand it. So this is the NASA Watch Show. This is all CGI from the beginnings. Even Disney start to make this kind of concept of the solar flares. But when you start to studying, let me put it. Okay, here starts.
I'm going to do a riff for a minute because so many people accuse me of lying to them. They tell me I'm using false colors. Okay, I'm not. Okay, the colors that you see on any image from the Solar Dynamics Observatory, they're not false colors, they're just lies. Okay, in general, you can't see the light that we're trying to show you. If you want, we can show you, we have 36 million images from our spacecraft right now. I can show them all to you in black and white. Would you like that? Or would you rather see that cool orange that I showed you before? The temperature
so
on the...
here you can start to see, right? There are all false color. All false color. There is no any color in the solar, composite of the solar. There is any color. You can see any color. So this is a marketing question. They show us this orange because we are indoctrinated with that color from the childhood. So the NASA guys know this, so they start to, say, okay, all the colors are lies, all the colors are false, but what do you want? You want to see a grayscale image, or what? You want to see an orange cool image? So here he starts to try to explain what temperature are those colors, and even people in the audience start to laugh, because it's, you can tell me that you can see and determine what is the temperature based on what? On telescope in the space, that there is none telescope in the space.
Sun starts at about 6,000 Kelvin, which is almost 10,000 Fahrenheit, and it goes down a little bit. That doesn't really count, but then it goes up a lot.
And when he speak that, the electrical universe explain this phenomena that heliocentric model can, because the suns, pulsate. It's like have an expansion, and then it's like it's like beating. Yeah, that is a fact. And in the heliocentric model, you can explain why the sun make this in real time. It's not that
I guess it depends on how the sun feels that day, right?
That's right. I think the same.
It's going to go 20 million Kelvin. Okay, it's really hot. All right.
Yeah, se ríe. That is when it was.
Okay, some people like to know that.
They smile.
Okay, and the other thing you're going to see is that we have gotten into the practice of never showing you an image. You're going to see a couple images now because it just didn't work.
He say image. Mm-hmm. He doesn't say photograph. So image is product of imagination. Can be made on computer or an artist. But he doesn't say photograph.
The way I wanted to do this. But you're going to see a lot of really funky stop-action movies because we have so many images, we just put them together and make movies out of everything. I mean, that's the cool thing about SDO is that in general, we have we can look at what happened and what happened before and what happened afterwards, and we're going to show it to you because that's what we're doing now. Okay, that's the sun you're used to looking at, right? Now, I told you every one of these colors is a lie. That should be blue.
And in fact, here you can start to see the manipulation because the sun always show us 2, 3, 4 spots, no more. So how we can have in the real life 4 spots and then, well, you're going to see
Most people would not like that to be blue. They want it to be yellow, so it's been made yellow. Okay, that's 6,000 Kelvin. You can see a couple of sunspots. Think of those as eyes. Okay, there they are again. This is a little cooler. This is a little higher in the atmosphere of the sun, and it's a little cooler, so it's pink. Okay, now we start getting a little hotter, 10,000 degrees. You can still see the eyes, and you can start to see something happening in the southern hemisphere. And so now let's get a little hotter.
You can see the smile here.
Yeah.
The two eyes and the smile. Even he is gonna say it. But somebody can explain me why start to appear this sunspot here. If the real sunspot are only these 2, for example.
Higher in the atmosphere.
So why
of the sun.
Suddenly they start to make a lot, and right now we have like 10,000 sunspots. where they come from?
In Fahrenheit. Well, something is happening down there. That's pretty ugly. Okay, it's still got eyes. Now it's got an ear over there too. Got a mouth. This is the old man in the sun. Okay, this is something. I have the temperature down here. So
I can't believe it.
600,000 Kelvin. Here
hey
we
guys,
are, about 1 million Kelvin.
Yeah.
2 million.
If I can just point out, if we went back, or I'm going to go back later and watch this after the show. If you pay close attention to what he's saying, he's literally, in every sentence, he's literally contradicting himself, like directly. For instance, he says, we never show you any of these images. I'm going to show you one of them now. It goes down, well, up. He does this. He's done it with, like, every sentence.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's right. And in fact, he saved from himself, this is a 2 eye, this is a smile of the sun, because for these people, Helios, it's their God. So before, in the Roman times, the Helios has, like a human body and that kind of stuff. And the upgrade of that goded image now is this ball of fire with face too, of course. This is the nose, this is the lips, this is the eyes, the ears. And they make this, they mock-ups. They make us in our face.
And they even get us used to it by saying on the face of the moon, on the face of the earth, on the face of the sun. They say those words.
Yeah,
face.
That's right.
Face, like cara.
T Gesselshaft in the chat says it looks like a tiger face.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Let's not forget about the infamous Halloween image, right, where it looked like a jack-o'-lantern. They just mock us.
Yeah.
That's no doubt about it. And then he started to speak about the filter that they put it, and now it's 6 million of kelvins. So what instrument do you have? I think that with that instrument, if I put like a fire about 30 kilometers away, you can tell me what is the temperature of that fire. So
I'd like to know how are they going to verify that anything can read a temperature from 93 million miles away, allegedly, through the face of the sun? And what are you going to compare that to? Who's going to verify that ever in a million years, even if the Earth was a globe?
Well, no doubt mathematicians can measure the temperature at 1 meter, so they can then just add zeros.
That's right. And when you start to, for example, if you follow the work about Don Scott and I think I have it here. Let me
Thornhill.
Yeah, Don Scott. He told us that about the electrical universe.
Good afternoon. My name is Don Scott. The hypothesis of the so-called electric sun. The electric sun is a sort of a natural outgrowth of the electrical universe hypothesis. We've already discussed the idea that there are indeed, we know that there are magnetic fields. The pioneers of this idea, obviously Immanuel Velikovsky, Ralph Jurgens, who was an engineer, was the person who really put this hypothesis together. After his death, Earl Milton carried it on. There was also, I left persons off that list that should be on there, and that is Hannes Alfvén, who in his paper in 1986, in that what I consider to be seminal paper in the IEEE proceedings on plasma science, actually had a circuit that showed the electric sun. It's slightly different from the one that Jurgens and Wall and I think is appropriate, but he was there in 1986. What I'd like to do today is to show some of the problems of the so-called standard model. That word model should be plural, models, because for every thing that we see, every phenomenon that we see in the sun, there seems to be a new model, or at least another patch on the previous existing model. And I'll discuss just a few of those problems that I feel at least are fatal, absolutely fatal for the models that are so-called accepted these days. And I would like to then demonstrate how precisely those problems are no problem at all for the electrical sun model.
Continue of that in it's just 2 minute video. Can I play?
Sure.
Okay, because maybe the people need to understand that right now in the heliocentric model they don't they have all these missing neutrinos, the oscillation of the sunlight, the temperature minimum at the chromosphere, the acceleration of the solar wind, those kind of things. They are a huge problem. But when you start thinking in electrical sun, that is totally, correct.
The idea, the basic idea of the standard model is that the sun and every other star, the sun being just sort of a medium Metz kind of star, is powered from within by a thermonuclear fusion reaction. That's the hydrogen bomb type reaction. Heat energy is delivered from the core to the surface by so-called non-stationary convection. I haven't figured out yet what non-stationary convection is. I know what convection is. A sort of a mysterious convection. It's radiated there into space. And gravitational and magnetic fields are, of course, as in all things, astronomical important, but let's ignore electric fields. That's the standard model. Eddington was the one who really said and rejected the idea that the sun could ever be powered from without. He considered the fact that there were not enough meteors flying through space to impact it and power it that way, and he just sort of forgot about the fact that electric currents were present. If you look down, this is a classic example that I think is appropriate. Wall, I think, was the one who came up with it. If you look down from a spaceship on the Earth at night and look at San Francisco and New York, you must think that there's a tremendous amount of energy being produced in San Francisco and New York and all of these cities that glow. And of course, there's no energy being produced there. The energy is being produced in hydroelectric plants hundreds and hundreds of miles away, delivered invisibly to where that energy is being liberated. I maintain that's exactly what's happening with the sun. The problems, the ones at least that I'd like to talk about this afternoon, the big problem, the famous problem, is the missing neutrinos. And talk about that in a second. The idea of this heat transport from the core to the surface, if indeed the heat is made in the core from the so-called fusion reaction, how is it transported to the core? Is it reasonable to say there's convection occurring there? The idea of convection, the granules that we see on the photosphere are supposedly the top of these convection columns. We'll discuss that. There are some oscillations in the sun's size and brightness, and of course oscillations in the solar wind, as somebody pointed out the other day. If there's a fusion reaction going on in the core, then how can does this reaction, does it have periodicities? That's never been discussed by nuclear physicists. There is actually a temperature minimum in the chromosphere. Where in the world does that come from? If the heat is all generated at the core, the temperature should get lower and lower and lower the further away you get from this thing. All of a sudden you find there's a minimum and then the temperature increases. Totally inexplicable in light of the present standard so-called model or models. The solar wind actually accelerates. It goes faster and faster and faster. How can you generate the stuff at a point and then spew it out and not have the stuff, whatever it is, the particles in the solar wind go slower and slower and slower? Why do they accelerate? And there's other problems as well. There's a 27-day, 43-minute periodicity in the solar wind. In fact, the other day we said it increased to unknown or unseen levels. But there is this periodicity. If it's periodic, how can that periodicity, how can that fluctuation be produced by something that's way at the center of the sun and then being radiated through convection, which is a smooth process, to the outside? What makes this 27-day period? How can that fluctuation occur like that? There's nothing in the standard model to produce that. The solar brightness oscillation, if you think 27 days is bad, the sun actually oscillates in brightness from a few minutes to near an hour. So the thing is pulsating very rapidly. There's no way in this world, in this solar system, that could happen. And the third one is, to me, astounding if you haven't heard about it. That is, there's an expansion and contraction of the sun in the size of the sun. The thing actually bulges and fluctuates in size like a balloon. And the extent of that bulging is 10 kilometers. And that happens at about a period of about 160 minutes. Where did that come from? And how do you explain it from the so-called standard model? They just ignore it.
So there, for me, it's another key, because when he took about 10 kilometers, how can you detect 10 kilometers of expansion in the huge, kilometers diameter of the sun. So here, I think, in second lines, he is telling us that the sun is close, small, and that is why they can.
That's why they need to just scale it down, Hiru. I mean, that's what I've been saying all this time. It's like if you take all these massive distances and sizes and scale them down into something that is more akin to the flat Earth model, all of a sudden it makes a whole lot more sense, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess that makes a lot of sense why NASA's mad-libbing on the size of the sun again, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they're talking about changing the size of it again.
Yeah. So
yep.
There is a lot of, really respectable community of scientists that it's opening at least at this kind of model. And everybody knows that if the sun is electric, because it is electric, there is no, there is no play for the heliocentric model. It doesn't matter if it's flat or it's a globe. The fact is that if the sun is really close and it's small, the whole system falls down.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely.
The heliocentric in the flat Earth model, of course, comes right into focus. Absolutely, because when you take this and you scale it down and you add an anode to the circuit, or a lid, whatever, everything becomes perfectly predictable. Every experiment that Christian Birkeland ever did with plasma physics in the lab come right into focus, from nebula down to supernova. Okay, or what they're calling supernova. It all makes perfect sense in an electric, small-based universe, so to speak.